The sentence came out of nowhere, and the moment it landed, everything changed. On a quiet Friday evening in a small Ohio town, Emily Carter realized that some requests are not about what is asked, but about what is breaking inside a person. The house was unusually still, the kind of silence that follows too many long days apart. Outside, rain slid down the windows in thin silver lines, and inside the air felt heavy with things left unsaid. Emily had not planned to be here. Standing behind the couch with a small bottle of lavender oil warming in her hands, life had brought her into this family 3 years earlier. After she married Mark Carter, a dedicated ER doctor who lived more hours at the hospital than at home, she had stepped into the role of stepmother carefully, aware of every line she could never cross, respectful of the past that existed long before her. Her stepson Jake sat on the couch, shoulders hunched, jaw tight. At 17, he carried himself like someone older, but his eyes still held the quiet fear of a boy who had seen too many people leave. Football practice had left him sore, and Mark's late shift meant the house belonged to the two of them alone. "You look tense," Emily said gently, her voice calm and steady. Jake shrugged. "Just tired." Emily nodded. She had learned long ago not to push. "I can help your shoulders if you want, just to loosen them." He hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, that'd be okay." She stayed professional, keeping space, focusing only on the knots she could feel through his sweatshirt. Her movements were slow and careful, the same way she would help a neighbor or a friend. The silence between them was thick but not uncomfortable. The rain outside filled the gaps as her hands worked. Jake let out a long breath. His shoulders dropped slightly, as if some weight had finally been set down. Emily noticed it immediately. Relief always showed first in the body. She was just about to step back when Jake spoke, his voice quiet but tense. "Emily, can I ask you something?" Her hands paused, but she didn't pull away suddenly. She stepped back, giving him space. "Of course." He stared at the floor, fingers twisting together. "I don't mean anything weird," he said quickly. I need to say it." Emily's chest tightened, not with fear, but with concern. She could hear the crack in his voice. "Go on," she said. He swallowed hard. "Can you? Can you promise you won't leave?" The words hit harder than she expected. This wasn't a casual question. This wasn't teenage drama. This was raw and real. Jake finally looked up at her. His eyes were glossy, but he refused to let tears fall. "Everyone leaves," he said. "My mom left when I was 10. Dad's always gone. I know you didn't sign up for me, but I don't want to lose you too." Emily felt her throat close. In that moment, she didn't see a stepson. She saw a scared child asking for something simple and impossible at the same time. She took a slow breath. "Jake," she said softly, "I'm not going anywhere. But I can't replace anyone, and I can't make promises that aren't real." He nodded quickly. "I know. I just needed to hear that you care." "I do," she said. "I care very much." The room fell quiet again, but something had shifted. Emily walked to the kitchen to steady herself, gripping the counter as emotion rushed in. She had tried so hard to be balanced, to stay within safe lines, to be kind without confusing anyone. But love, she realized, was never neat. Later that night, Mark came home after midnight. Emily pretended to be asleep, but her mind raced. She thought about Jake's words, about how alone he felt, about how she herself had been feeling invisible in her own marriage. Mark slipped into bed silently, exhausted. His phone buzzed once, then went dark. Emily stared at the ceiling, wondering when they had stopped talking about the things that mattered. The next morning came too fast at breakfast. Jake barely spoke, but there was a softness in his eyes when he looked at Emily. Mark rushed through his coffee, already checking messages from work. "Dad," Jake said suddenly, "can we have dinner together tonight? All of us." Mark looked surprised. "I'll try." Emily watched them both, realizing how fragile the family had become without any of them noticing. The day passed slowly. Emily cleaned, folded laundry, and tried not to overthink everything. She knew she needed to be careful. Jake's request had come from pain, not attachment in the wrong way. Still, it meant something had to change. That evening, Mark actually came home before sunset. They ate dinner at the table instead of the couch. The food was simple, but the moment felt important. Jake spoke first. "I don't feel like a family anymore," he said. "And I don't want to grow up feeling like nobody stayed." Mark set his fork down. "I didn't know you felt like this." "That's the problem," Jake said. "Nobody knows how anyone feels." Emily took a breath. "We're all lonely," she said. "But we're trying not to bother each other with it." The truth sat heavy between them. Mark leaned back, rubbing his face. "I thought working more was helping. I didn't realize it was hurting us." That night didn't fix everything, but it opened a door. Over the next few days, small changes began. Mark came home earlier twice that week. Jake smiled more. Emily felt lighter, but also aware that her role mattered more than she had admitted to herself. One evening, as Emily washed dishes, Jake stood in the doorway. "Thanks for listening the other night," he said. She smiled. "Anytime." He hesitated. "You didn't make it awkward." "I was worried I messed up." "You didn't," she said honestly. "You were brave." Jake nodded and walked away, shoulders a little straighter. Later, alone in the quiet house, Emily sat on the couch and thought about how close everything had come to breaking. She realized that what Jake had asked for wasn't comfort or tension. He had asked for presence, and keeping that promise would mean facing things she had been avoiding: her marriage, her loneliness, and the truth that love requires action, not silence. As rain began to fall again outside, Emily knew the hardest part was still ahead. The moment Emily heard Jake say, "We're falling apart," she knew the house could never go back to the way it was before. That night, the air in the Carter home felt heavier than usual. The rain had stopped, but the silence had stayed. Emily sat at the dining table, staring at the empty plates, feeling the weight of Jake's words from earlier. She could still hear the tremor in his voice, the way he sounded like a boy trying to hold himself together. Mark walked in from work, tired and quiet. His shoulders were tight, his eyes distant. He set his bag down slowly, as if he didn't want to disturb the fragile calm in the house. Emily watched him, knowing he was a good man, but also knowing that his job had turned him into someone who forgot how to come home. Jake sat across from them, looking older than his age. He didn't speak again at first, but Emily could see the tension in his hands. He kept tapping the table with his fingers, as if trying to tap out a message he couldn't say. Finally, he spoke. "I don't feel like we're a family anymore," he said. "I feel like we're just living in the same house." Mark's face tightened. "That's not true." Jake looked down. "It is. You're always at the hospital. Emily's always trying to be careful around me, like she's walking on eggshells." Emily felt her heart drop. She hadn't realized Jake felt this alone. She had thought she was doing the right thing, being respectful, staying in the lines. But the truth was, she had been holding herself back, afraid of stepping into a role that might not belong to her. Emily took a deep breath. "Jake," she said, "I didn't realize you felt this way. I've been trying not to push. I didn't want to make things worse." Jake looked up, eyes wet. "I know, but I need something real. I need us to be honest." Mark finally spoke, his voice low. "I'm sorry. I didn't know it was this bad." Jake's shoulders dropped, just slightly. "It is. I miss you, Dad. I miss when you were here." Mark's face softened. "I miss you too." The moment was raw and simple, like a wound finally being seen. Emily felt her eyes sting. She wanted to say something powerful, something that would fix everything. But she knew there were no quick fixes for what had been broken over time. Emily stood up, walked to the sink, and began washing the dishes slowly. The sound of running water filled the room, and it felt like a small act of peace. Mark looked at her, then at Jake. "We need to talk more," he said. "Not just tonight. Every day. I can do that. I can come home earlier." Jake nodded. "I just want us to be a family." Emily wiped her hands, then turned to them both. "We can be," she said. but we have to choose it. That night, Mark did something he hadn't done in months. He didn't take his phone to bed. He didn't fall asleep instantly. Instead, he sat beside Emily on the couch and they talked like they used to before life got too busy. He told her about the pressure at work, the long hours, the feeling that he had to prove himself. Emily listened and she didn't judge. She only listened because she understood what it meant to feel trapped in a life that felt like it was slipping away. She told him about Jake's loneliness, about how the boy needed more than just a roof and food. She told him how she had been scared to step into the role of stepmother fully, because she didn't want to overstep. She told him she loved him, but she needed him to be here too. Mark reached for her hand. "I didn't know," he said. "I didn't know you felt alone." Emily shook her head. "We were all alone, but we didn't say it." That was the turning point. Over the next few weeks, things changed slowly but steadily. Mark cut back his hours at the hospital, refusing extra shifts unless it was absolutely necessary. He began coming home for dinner, even if it was late. He stopped texting during meals and started asking Jake about school, about his friends, about what mattered to him. Jake, for his part, began opening up. He stopped acting like he was fine all the time. He started saying things like, "I'm scared and I miss you and I don't want to be alone." Emily felt a warmth in her chest she hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't dramatic or loud. It was gentle, like the first sign of spring after a long winter. One night, as Emily was making tea, Jake came into the kitchen. He looked nervous, like he wanted to say something important, but didn't know how. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey," Emily replied. He hesitated, then asked, "Do you think you'll stay? Like, really stay?" Emily smiled and her eyes softened. "Yes," she said. "I'm not going anywhere." Jake let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "Thank you," he said. Emily nodded. "You don't have to say thank you. You deserve to feel safe." Jake smiled, then walked away. That moment didn't feel like a big victory, but it was. It was proof that healing could happen if people were brave enough to face the truth. A few months later, the family sat together on the couch watching a movie. Mark's arm was around Emily, and Jake was leaning on her shoulder. The house was quiet, but it was a warm quiet now, the kind that meant everyone was finally comfortable being together. Emily looked at them both and felt a deep sense of peace. She knew life would still be hard. She knew there would still be challenges. But she also knew that they had chosen each other, and that was what mattered. That night, as the lights dimmed and the movie played, Emily realized that the most powerful thing she had ever done was not the massage or the conversation. It was staying. And in the end, that was enough to bring them back together.